For the second month in a row, sales actually outpace the inventory in the townhouse market, which is a clear indication, in my opinion, that pricing is going to continue to increase. What is going on? Let's go check it out. My name is Fyfe, your Calgary real estate agent. If you're looking at getting into the townhouse market, I'm sorry, it is very competitive. You got to make sure that you're creating a game plan well in advance to prepare for this market. You can see that pricing has steadily increased since January of this year, just like apartments, and there's a lot to unpack here. So let's figure out why the sales outpace the inventory. Now, let's start this off by looking at the overall benchmark price for the city of Calgary, $425,200, which is up 19% from last year, or $64,000, or $6,000, almost $6,000 from last month. Now, when you see this benchmark price for the entire city, this is the attributes that you would get. Okay, it's a 2-bed, 2 full bath, 1 half bath, built in 2004, and it's about 1,100 square feet rounded down. So when you see this attribute, when you see the benchmark price for the entire city, these are the attributes that you get. But you need to be aware of that these attributes actually change for the different quadrant that you go in the city. So let's start this off like usual. I'm going to read the Calgary real estate breakdown. If you want to read it yourself, pause the video or just go to the next chapter. The 420 new listings this month were met with 375 sales, keeping the sales to new listing ratio high at almost 90% and preventing any significant shifts in the inventory levels. Row inventory levels have not been this low since October of 2005. At the same time, October sales reached a record high for the month, keeping the month of supply at 1 month. The persistently tight market conditions have supported further gains in prices this month. In October, the unadjusted benchmark price reached $425,000. A monthly gain of over 1% and 19% compared to last year. Prices have risen across most districts, but this month the largest monthly gain occurred in the city center, which has also seen the lowest year-to-date price growth compared to the other districts. So quite fascinating stuff here. You can see 90% sales to new listing ratio, inventory staying very low. What is going on here? So let's kind of dive back into this graph, which is a very visually pleasing graph. So you can see that the red line is the price point. You can see that it's just steadily increased right from January of this year. You can see that the inventory has relatively stayed flat all year, meaning that we have a roughly around the same amount of homes at the end of the month. You can see that May, June, July, August, actually every single month since April, the sales have outpaced the inventory, meaning that the inventory is slowly depleting every single month, especially as they're eating up all of the new listings. If this keeps up, the pricing is not going to slow down anytime soon. I don't really foresee any sort of price correction. There could be a flat line going into the winter, but I really don't think it's going to be anything significant. The demand for townhouses in Calgary and all districts is so hot right now that I don't really see the buyer gaining an upper edge, unless it's maybe a little bit of an older listing been on the market for a while, but that's a part of a whole different strategy. So let's kind of dive into this a little bit here. So this is the kind of the year-to-date stats package. Is very interesting. You can see that the sales have dropped, the new listings has dropped, and the inventory dropped, kind of indicating that we're going into the winter. Nothing uncommon there. You can see that the months, the days on market's actually increased by a couple days, nothing too crazy. It's similar to what we saw in like March of April this year. The benchmark price continuing to increase, the average and the median price also continuing to increase, meaning that more expensive product is selling, clearly pulling up the benchmark price as well. So very interesting stuff there. Just like pretty much every other district, the months of supply here is, the trend is starting to drop, and it's going to stay that low for a while. I don't really see that increasing anytime soon. Now, when we start to break it down here, this is where it gets fascinating. So we're going to look at the row section here, and you can see that everything, or not everything, but a lot of stuff is hovering around that 0.5 months, which is a super hot seller's market. You can see southeast, south, north, and east all hovering around that that date range, where the west, the northwest, as well as the northeast are hovering around 1 month. All of those districts are still very hot. You can see city center is closer to 2 months. It's still technically a seller's market, a little bit closer of a balanced condition. You shouldn't really see as aggressive price swings when it's up near 2 months of supply like that. You would think that something like the south, which is really close down to 0.5, would see a little bit of a lot larger of a swing. But given the written description at the beginning, I'm fascinated to go into it with you. So breaking this down a little bit further, this is the benchmark price for townhouses across the city. We talk about this in every single video. This is just a quick overview of what the benchmark prices are in each individual quadrant. Super quick example. You can see that north and northwest have the same benchmark price right here. here, but when you actually look at this chart, and this is where it starts to develop into your game plan, figuring out what exactly do you want. So when you look at north and you look at northwest, some of the biggest things that you'll notice is that north is actually built in 2012, where west was built in 1993. So they're the same price point, but you're going to get a little bit of a newer product for the same price in North Calgary. And let's see what else the difference is. They've also got 3 bedrooms in the north, where Northwest has 2 bedrooms. So for the same price point, you can get an extra bed newer in Calgary North, but Northwest is a little bit more sought after, hence being a little bit more expensive. So when you start to compare these things across the city, it really does open up your perspective of what you can expect in certain areas, and really just helps prepare you to make a fast move when those things come up on the market as a buyer. Now, as a seller, this is the year-over-year growth. You can clearly see that the northeast and east saw massive increases from last year, where everything else is still modest increases of 15 to over 20%. Really good for you homeowners out there that are looking to build up your equity. Not a bad time to capitalize on that, just based off of how hot the market is, but definitely not a very good time to be a buyer, just because it's very, very complicated and competitive, not complicated. So this software here, amazing software, having a lot of fun with this. This is an AI generated software. Put in your home address, you put in a little bit of personal information, it spits you out an automated email, or an automated home evaluation. If you are looking at diving into that a little bit deeper, sure, reach out to me on top of that. Let's have a conversation. Let's look at the comparables and make sure that it's actually lined up to what you would hope it was actually valued at. If you have any questions, go ahead, feel free to reach out. This is a very interesting software, and it's instantaneously. It'll spit it out within 5 seconds. It's super, super impressive. So let's go back here. Let's go to the microeconomic breakdown. So this is a very good breakdown of the entire city for each individual quadrants. Your step after this would be look at your community and your kind of surrounding area, but this is kind of a high level overview. So you can see the sales, the new listings, and the sales to new listing ratio. It's actually quite wild to see how Calgary West, South, and Southeast all saw more sales than they did new listings, which is obviously going to put that at the very beginning. You can see that bar was higher than the other. This is one of the main reasons why. You can see that the inventory levels here. It's quite crazy to see actually that the Northeast has more homes left over at the end of the month than the city center, especially when you start to compare the price points of like 337 and 578. Pretty crazy to see, actually. You don't really see that too often, where the Northeast has more inventory at a significantly less price compared to the city center. Again, looking at these benchmark prices, but you got to remember those attributes are going to be very different. So regardless, months of supply, you can see all those things that we talked about, closer to like 1 month. Benchmark price, year-over-year price, and then the month-over-month percentages. Every single quadrant saw an increase, minus the Southeast. They saw 0.02% decrease, which is absolutely zero in my book. It's a negative $100 month-over-month gain loss, but the month prior to that, they actually gained $8,000. So they had a flat line this month, but the month last, they actually increased by $8,000. So fair play to them. Where is the market going to go? I can see that the Calgary Real Estate Board has not given me a new chart here yet. We're off the charts, and we're going to continue to climb. I do not foresee townhouses in Calgary slowing down anytime soon. I've said this for a while. It's just, it's too hot. There's too much demand. It's a really good time to capitalize on a sell, but it's not a good time, in my personal opinion, to capitalize on an investment. I've talked about this a bunch. The interest rates have increased. The home pricing has increased by a wild amount. The rents have not increased enough. If you're looking at playing more of like a long-term equity growth plan or that kind of play, then sure, I'm getting in a market like this and riding it out and not getting the biggest month-over-month revenue, but looking at that future. Now is not a bad time, but a lot of people are reaching out looking for that month-over-month revenue. This is not the perfect market for that by any stretch. So if you have any questions, go ahead, reach out. Send me an email, book a call. The Zoom link is in the description below. I'm more than happy to explain these things to you, give you my reasons, and go from there. So thank you very much. I hope you get a lot of value from this channel. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.